Megan Niddle, and we're in Easton, Maryland. And I was 47 when I was diagnosed. So it was just last year.
Oh, just last year.
Yeah, I'm not even a year in.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what stage were or are you? I don't know.
I'm considered cancer-free now.
Okay.
I was stage 1B, and it was actually October 27th of 2023 that I discovered a lump, and I marched right into my GP's office, and I said, this is not normal. And because I was already on a 6-month watch because of family history, and they immediately put me in for an ultrasound, and we skipped the mammogram thing because insurance won't cover a mammogram more than once a year, regardless of what the history is or anything. So they said, but we can give you an ultrasound. And the ultrasound revealed that I actually had, in fact, 4 tumors. And so between the 27th of October and the 31st of October of last year, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. We didn't know what stage or what type at that point, but we knew that it was something that needed to be done. So I had a very quick turnaround. That's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Because I was being proactive and
Yes.
I was insistent. You know, when the nurse tells you your insurance isn't going to cover for your mammogram, and I said, well, something needs to be done. There's something there, and I'm not going to ignore it. And I fortunately had a very responsive nurse, and the radiologist was very responsive, and so I was very lucky in that sense. Whereas a lot of women would say, well, I'll just wait until my next mammogram. But it very well could have not shown up on the mammogram because A, it was small, and B, the location of it was just on the edge of where the mammogram doesn't even detect. So that's where I believe divine intervention was looking out for me.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And so you say you had 4 spots. Were they all like in the same area?
No. The one spot that I could feel sort of had a little sister connected to it when we did the ultrasound. And then what they do is they do an ultrasound of your entire breast. And they said, oh, there's another spot. And I said, okay. And they were very reassuring because they said, just because there's more than one doesn't mean that it's worse. It just kind of means like the cells for some reason are now waking up or whatever the reason. So I didn't panic at that point. I really haven't panicked at all. It's just more like, crap, now I have to deal with this. And then when I had to go in for the biopsy a few days later, that's when they found the 4th one. And that was found by a tech. It wasn't even a doctor that found that. So just because you're skilled in an area, and we always go to the specialist, if you feel someone who feels something and you're just, and medicine is not your area of expertise, don't ignore it. It's just always be proactive. So I'm very big on self-checks, and if it feels off, just go and make sure it gets checked out.
Yeah, it's like that gut feeling, like if your gut's telling you something's wrong, there's a good chance that...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when they told me, I was not surprised. Even though over 80% of tumors discovered are benign, which means not cancerous, there's no reason not to think, why not me? And I knew I was a higher risk.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister died from breast cancer years ago. And so I and my other sister and I had just always been very proactive, knowing what we would do to help prevent any reoccurrence if it happened to one of us. And it did happen to me. So.
Man, you're so good at this. I was like, wow, I'm just in awe listening to you right now. I don't even have words.
Just curious, what's one of the things you said that they just don't tell you about it?
What's that? You're blinded by this light.
No, that's fine. You don't need to see me. What's something that you said earlier in the podcast about, what they don't tell you? What's something that they just do not tell you? You don't see in movies or something like that?
Oh yeah, like you were saying that your bones, like they're like cottage cheese. They're Like,
Well, Stacy, my friend, will refer to, she's like, your bones are like Swiss cheese, because chemotherapy weakens so much. It weakens your immune system, it weakens your bones. While all the while killing what you want it to kill, it's killing all the good cells too. Fortunately for me, I did not get sick during my chemotherapy. I took 2 immunotherapy and chemotherapy, 6 cycles from December of last year to March of this year. I was very blessed. I wasn't the typical, what you would see in the movies, like hugging the toilet bowl. It wasn't me. I had great medicines for that. I didn't feel great. I didn't work during that time. It was just, but it's hard. And I was also very blessed that I didn't have allergic reactions to these medicines, because they have high allergy statistics. And so I did well with that. And I did lose my hair. This is not by choice, although I'm kind of digging it. And and it's hard to say what is it that they don't tell you. It's just, you think of it later, like it messes with your brain. Your memory. I'll be in the middle of something and I'm like, what am I doing? And it's a lot of that is, I think it messes with the chemical makeup of your brain. And apparently over time it'll get better, but it's hard to know how much better. My husband says that, he's like, you write everything down now. I'm like, yeah, otherwise we're not going to get anything done. Just because I will forget.
yeah. I need to look at it. I have the question. Kind of. So, what has all this taught you about yourself?
So before this, I had a lot of anxieties. I don't like to drive places by myself. I mean, in town is fine, but beyond town, it's like, I want someone with me. I always worried about like, oh, if you take a certain medicine, you might get an allergy or something. When you're faced with something that's like, it's either this or this. And the alternative is death if you don't address it. The other choice is to take the medicine and trust the process and trust the people who are giving it to you, that they're going to be there for you if you start having an issue. And I had a phenomenal team. I got all of my care done at Anne Arundel. And I really, really had to dig deep and say, okay, it was never an option of not doing treatment. I've always said that if they tell me I have breast cancer, I will automatically do a bilateral mastectomy, whether even if it's a small tumor. But for me, that wasn't even an option because I had multiple tumors. And so I had a great surgeon, and she said, I fully support that. If the surgeon doesn't support it, insurance won't cover it. And so I said, I really do wish to have a bilateral, meaning take both. And she said, I support that because of familiar family history. And what was the question? See, this is one of the...
No, you're fine. It's just what
it taught me. It's taught me to fight. It's taught me to allow myself a lot of grace. You know, if I'm having a bad day, it's okay to have a bad day. I am a deep believer in Jesus Christ, and so I just really had to dig deep and say, I have faith that you've got my back, and that it's okay to ask for help. It's just when they offer you a meal, you say, what time? You know, and I have to say that it really brought out, you know, looking at my kids and having to watch them deal with it. You know, my son had gone off to college, so he really didn't see anything, so he came home to me being bald. But we had FaceTimed, and, you know, I was like, look at this. I look like one of your rock stars. And then, you know, my 13-year-old, he's the only one at home now, and so he's the one who's seen everything. And, but I didn't hide a lot either. I didn't want to be like, ooh, I can't be sick. I was just like, buddy, I'm having a rough afternoon. You play it hour by hour, honestly. So you're stronger than you know.
Yeah.
And I chose faith over fear. So.
Not many people do.
No, but you have to respect that. I know a lady who's been diagnosed 3 times. And for personal choices, she had decided just to do the operations and not the medicine, because she's just like, I'd rather just live life and not deal with the medication, because every person's going to have a different medication. I responded well. I mean, I would go to an infusion and then go out to lunch afterwards, but then I would be very, very tired. And then for a couple of days, I would hunker down, but I had that option too. There are people who work through this, and I don't know how they work through this, but they do. And all the more power to them. I chose not to, because I work in a field where they didn't want me to come across germs and get sick. And it was at the crux of flu season. So we just opted that I would just not work for a few months. I can't say I was mad about that.
And like, how was your like job with that? Like, were they like supportive?
Oh yeah, she was fantastic. I just work in a small boutique, but we have a lot of customers, and it was, whatever you need. And I didn't expect them to hold my position or anything, but she was very caring and kind. She was the first person who, when I got that call from the radiologist saying, we're so sorry, it is malignant. In fact, we found more than one, and my boss was the first person to come and say, I am so sorry you're dealing with this. And she just handed it to me at my front door and left. And I just remember feeling like, okay, And it was hard. My husband also got diagnosed with cancer at the same time. And his was prostate cancer. He had an operation, and he's doing great. No medication or any long-term treatment like I had to do. We had hoped it would just be an operation for me, but it wasn't. They really thought that I should do the chemo, and now I'm doing the preventative therapy.
And is that just because of your family history?
The preventative therapy?
Yes.
Okay, so the preventative therapy is, they didn't know until after my operation. I had my operation in April of this year, and it was a phenomenal operation. I went in, and I had a fantastic team. So reassuring. I was not nervous at all, which is saying something about, what I would have been like before, because I've never had a major operation before. I mean, I've had C-sections, but that's different. And I remember waking up and just being like, okay. And it was just a few hours later, I was up and walking, and I left the hospital that day. It was a same-day surgery. The preventative therapy is because the pathology came back and indicated that I did not have lymph node involvement, and that I was triple positive, that I was stage 1. And this is where my memory always fails. It's like I met 4 of the reasons, and I can always only remember 3. It's always a different 3, but anyway. So I fit this specific box, and they said, this medication we have found has a high success rate of no reoccurrence. And we like to encourage people to take it, but it's 14 cycles, so it's pretty vicious. And you go and you have to get the infusion. It's like getting chemotherapy, but it's not as long and it's not as intense. I'm able to get up and do whatever I'm doing for the rest of the day after I have it. So I do that every 3 weeks, and I'll be finished with that in spring of 2025.
Oh, okay.
So I get my 7th one on Tuesday.
Is it a shot, or is it like a...
No, so I have a port, which is a medical device that they put in your chest at the beginning of treatment. And it's a small operation, and it's almost like a magnet, and it has a line that goes into your bloodstream. And when they connect the infusion to me, they just connect it through here. I numbed that earlier that day. Little things like that they don't tell you. Like, you have to keep that tube of lidocaine in your purse. And so I just numb that area and they connect me, and that's how so that they don't have to do an IV every single time. So I would say that cancer, half of it is a mental battle. It's not just a physical trying to get rid of the cancer. It's also, it plays with your mind. Now that I've had it, it's always going to be on my mind, is it going to come back? And so, which for me, it almost feels like that's worse.
For it to come back. What is worse?
What's worse is feeling like it could come back. Even though we caught it early, even though we've thrown everything at it, like I'm doing everything on my end, it's just like, cancer doesn't discriminate.
No. It's just the dreaded idea of it possibly finding its way back.
Right. I mean, 1 in 8 women are going to be diagnosed, and there's a very good chance that number is smaller. And so
I've seen it happen, being diagnosed and then being diagnosed again years later, but a different kind.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And then the medicines that you take are doing their job, but they also come with their own bowl of risk. And like one of the medicines that I have to take for the next 5 years, I take a pill every night that I take for the next 5 to 10 years. And that has a low risk of other cancers. So it's just like, why would I take this and when it could cause this? And it's because the pros far outweigh the risks in hoping that the cancer doesn't come back. And it's just like, you're rolling a dice, really. Oh, there's many, many things. But these are drugs that are specifically for cancer patients.
Yeah.
That are supposed to be helping us, but then there's this small risk of creating another possible issue. So I've had long talks with my doctor, and he's like, you need to understand that the risks of not taking it are higher than if you do take it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
a wing and a prayer.
Ted, you got anything?
I think that's good. I think it's all in there.
One more question.
What's that?
Who is your biggest support throughout your whole journey?
Oh gosh, my family. My husband had been an amazing support. Even though he was going through his own thing, he's given me a lot of grace, just because this caused a lot of moodiness. And but my parents have been a massive support. Friends and family, especially my church, has been very, very supportive. So I've had a really great network. But I would say my family, my kids, and my husband have been the reason to keep fighting, and just know that they will love me regardless of who or what I am that day. So, and I hope that they know how much they have meant to me, even from afar. Like my daughter's in college, my son's in college, and they haven't been there physically, but just knowing that I could call them and say, I'm having a bad day, and they're like, Mom, that's okay. Mm-hmm. You know. And then my 13-year-old, just being a sweet boy, he internalizes it. But I remember the other night he was, someone was asking about what are you grateful for, and they were teasing him because he chose to go with us to this event. And very sincerely, he said, I'm just really grateful Mom and Dad are doing okay. And I was just like, he was paying attention. Because he doesn't say anything.
I feel like kids that age, they won't say anything.
Right, and I don't think they know how to verbalize it. Mm-hmm. So
their minds are still developing. It's that prime adolescent age where their mind is starting to just grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that my older kids also are like, how do we help Mom? And I'm like, just live your life, be happy, and call me once in a while. That's all I ask. That's all check in with me.
It's not any mom. Just call me. Just let me know you're okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What?
Preemptive one. That's
Yes.
the secret with my mom. Call her before she calls you.
Yep.
Right. Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you want to say?
I don't think so. It's just, check yourselves. And when you're having a bad day, try to think of something that you're grateful for. That was one thing that I did try to, when I was having a bad day and I was kind of going into myself and I, besides prayer, I would just be like, I'm really grateful that I have 3 healthy kids. I'm really grateful that my husband's doing so well, or that my parents are still here to be able to take care of me when I need it. That was a driving force for me, though, because I did not want my parents. That's a driving force to fight, to continue to fight. My parents have already lost one child. They lost her at age 50. And so I was devastated for them more than myself when I was diagnosed. I was just like, they should not ever have to go through this again, And so it wasn't like, oh gosh, what could happen to me? My husband's left alone, or the kids don't have a mother. Because as much as that would be devastating, I know that they would be okay and my husband would be okay. I just really worried for my parents to have to live through that again. And my sister, who is living, other sister. And I don't want to leave her either. But they've been a massive support and very, very strong. And but be proactive for your health.